I often wonder what a world where everyone felt free would require. I imagine it'd be a world where ideas like freedom, equality, and justice rang true for everyone, everywhere. A world where it isn't possible for categories of difference to translate into structures that produce patterns and practices of domination, many of which are all too familiar to us visually, if not experientially, and that are often used to justify violence in the broadest meaning of the term. Another way to ask the same thing: what would it require to make sure everyone flourishes according to how they define the meaning of the word? These questions and others have been at the center of my work and writing thus far. For example, my first book, To Build a Black Future, is a meditation on Black life and Black struggle through the prism of Black movement, present and past. It narrates and theorizes the political culture of the movement for Black lives, a political culture anchored by the assertion that all Black lives should and do matter, and that operates from a threefold premise. We must regard Black pain, champion Black joy, and practice a radically inclusive ethics of care. That foundation, that radical inclusivity, informs how I've been thinking about Black History Month. Not long ago, I shared some words about Doris K. and Susan G. Both were young Black lesbians making their way in Harlem's underworld in the late 1930s. Susan spent some time as a prostitute before settling in as another Black woman's gigolo. Doris, otherwise known as Little Tracy, after the comic strip detective Dick Tracy, because as she put it, I can always tell people where they've been and what they've been doing. Liked to wear suits and fedoras. She made money serving as a middleman in the prostitution racket. I first encountered Doris and Susan some years back while working as the lead researcher and curator for an archival project spearheaded by the Social Science Research Council. The project digitized and made widely available the research memoranda behind Swedish economist Gunnar Myrdal's influential, if not contested, study, An American Dilemma: The Negro Problem and Modern Democracy. The archive offers a rich array of qualitative and quantitative data on Black life in America and is an invaluable Black history resource. But I was personally most taken by interviews and ethnographic accounts of people like Doris and Susan, the wayward lives they lived, to borrow from Saidiya Hartman. In the main, Black History Month, as it's currently practiced, almost exclusively lauds the accomplishments and contributions that individual Black people have made to the American project. We should be skeptical of this tendency. It trains our eyes away from how everyday Black life is still lived and the violent material conditions many Black people continue to face. To put it another way, focusing on individual accomplishments and contributions permit an escape from the kinds of structural critiques necessary to change real-world circumstances as they presently exist, while blunting our capacity to see that the American project itself, racialized and anti-Black from the start, could be central to the problem. Just as importantly, this tendency erases the beautiful experiments, to borrow once more from Hartman, that emerge from living despite practices of disavowal that can offer a partial blueprint for what we might otherwise be. So, if we are serious about celebrating Black people, Black History Month should galvanize us toward the work that lies ahead just as much as it reminds us of the work that others have already done. And in looking back, we mustn't look past people like Doris K. and Susan G. They have just as much to teach us. I'm certain this is the only way towards a Black future and a liberated future for all.